Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Town Talk. Today, we're talking about our award-winning municipal court. More on that in a bit. Right now, I'm excited to introduce our guest, the Honorable Judge Vanessa Heinold. Judge, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you on. We know I have Sam Hankins here, our communications manager as
Hello.
well, and we know that municipal court does so much. You know the municipal court does so much, and we're excited to share some of that with our community, with our audience here. Let's just start with kind of a 2-sentence summary. What does the municipal court do? I know it's going to be hard to keep that short.
So the municipal court handles Class C misdemeanors, and so those are defined as fine-only misdemeanors. So what are those? Most times, folks can kind of come up with like traffic, right? Traffic cases. That's certainly something that we deal with, but we also deal with issues surrounding city ordinances, cases that may come up from that. We also work with animal services. And some of the cases that may come up with those situations. And we work with the fire marshal's office. We work with lots of different folks in the city infrastructure and the county infrastructure that file cases in my court. And so, yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell what we work on.
Yeah, and there's something I've had the chance to sit in on a few of your dockets over since I joined the city, and there have been a few things that have impressed me, and I want you to kind of say in your own words, what is the court's philosophy, what in your own words there, because I think seeing it firsthand, it was different than maybe what I had expected, not having experienced it before.
Well, I think sometimes people get the idea like what court is when they watch things like Judge Judy or they watch and we are a lot different from that. I'll just be honest with you. So our philosophy in general is that every person that has a case in our court needs to be treated with dignity and respect, needs to be um welcomed and needs to be accommodated in some way, right? Like, so we need to figure out what's best for the person in front of us, right? Like, well, how can we serve the person in front of us? So it is a lot in our court about individualized justice, right? Because that can look different for different people depending on where they are in their life, depending on their job status, depending on family situation, depending on all of those things. So that's what we try really hard to do. And I can tell you, I don't yell in court. I know Judge Judy does sometimes. I do not. I don't feel the need to. I just have a conversation, much like we are having today, to try to get to know the person in front of me. And I try to put everybody at ease and know that I'm going to work with every single person that comes through that door. And no matter which door it is they're opening, whether it's the door to the courtroom or some of our other more creative solutions we've come up that we'll probably talk about later.
I want to talk about now an award y'all recently won that's a really big deal. Y'all are no stranger to awards over at the municipal court, I've learned. But the Tyler Technologies Public Sector Excellence Award, this is a really big deal. It's the second time the court has won it. And there's a lot of factors I've learned recently that go into winning this award. Talk to me about what this award is and why it matters so much to you guys to win it.
Yeah, so they have different sectors that they evaluate. Tyler Technologies is the software company. We use their software to kind of ensure that our court system is efficiently run, and we do all those things. But they look at the different court systems about how they innovate, right? How they come to a problem, and how people can innovatively address that problem. And so there were hundreds of courts that applied for this award, and we were selected for being innovative in the way we use their technology. And so the way we did that was, we had a problem too, and all courts do. We all struggle with it, and that is appearances at court. Sometimes there are folks that know they have court, but they don't come. And that can create a whole backlog of cases. It can create, it just can slow down the system. It can also create issues with, having to issue warrants. And, we all know, like when a warrant is issued, maybe that particular, when someone's picked up on that warrant, that can that can cause a big disruption, right, in someone's life, whether it's they can't make it to work, they can't pick up their kids on time, they've missed an interview, it can all kinds of things can go wrong. And so it's like, I don't want to issue warrants, right? So how do we get people in the court? How do we overcome those barriers? And so that first question for us was, what are the barriers? Like, what are the real life barriers? Um, and we were able to kind of look at that, try to remove ourselves from a place of comfort for us, right? We're used to being in a courtroom, but remove ourselves from that and really look at it with new eyes, right? I'm a parent. I work during the day. Um, I absolutely can understand some of the barriers, right? Like, what about if you don't get paid for taking time off of work to go to court? Well, then that court appearance costs you money, right? Because you lose wages, right? What if you don't have childcare, right, to come to court? Well, some of that can uh, there's some adjustments that certainly could be made in the regular courtroom setting for sure. That can be a source of someone saying, you know what, I'm not going to go to court today. What about someone who doesn't have transportation? That can be a huge barrier, right? What about someone who thinks if I go to court, they're going to make me pay money or they're going to arrest me? I don't want to be arrested and I don't have any money to pay. I'm not going to court, right? So they don't know all the alternatives. Or it could be that it's just scary, right? Like I work in a court every day, and for now, well, we won't talk about how many years, but for a long time, right? So no, courts aren't intimidating to me, but I can certainly imagine how courts can be intimidating for someone who's never been to court or maybe they have been to court a lot but haven't always gotten a very positive outcome. So those are some of the barriers that we all talked about and we wanted to address, right?
Mm.
And so that's how we kind of came up with this new kind of innovative, creative solution, which is maybe we go and hold court outside of the traditional courtroom, right? But in a place that is maybe more of a safe, trusted place for some of the folks that we're trying to help. And so that's where we started kind of leveraging our relationships in the community. So I started calling my friends at Midcoast Family Services or at the public library. I started calling my friends at Christ Kitchen, started calling my friends at all these various locations where there are people already there utilizing their resources, but they also may overlap with people who also have issues pending in my court, right? So I was thrilled to get a positive reception when I started making these cold calls. And people are like, you want to hold court, like actual court? How does that work? And so that's where, my court administrator, who I love and who so many people know, Tiffany Toda, she looked at me and was like, Judge, you want to do what? And but Tiffany is a go-getter and just makes things happen, and she's like, we can do this. And so we started working on it, making the plans, and getting all the stakeholders involved to make sure that we could do this out in the community.
Yeah. And, you talked about the importance of access to court for some people. And one thing that you told me once that always has really stuck with me is most people at some point in their lives get a traffic ticket. Guilty. Okay. Most people at some point will, commit one of these offenses that would come across your court for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And, for most people, they pay it and they're done. And so the difference between someone who like it turns into a whole big thing, it's things that are outside of that person's control. And so I think that kind of awareness of that really shows through in the efforts that you and the court have made to really like offer people solutions and meet them where they are and say like, you need to, take care of whatever it is that you did, but like we'll make a way for you to do that.
Well, and I think, it's easy to focus on just the people who can pay immediately and move on down the road, right? So we have online ability to pay things online. We have ability to, they have transportation. They can come down to court. That's, those folks they're easy to work on. But the deal is like, as the judge of the court, my responsibility is to everyone who has cases in my court. and that includes people who have problem traditionally with the way we traditionally access court services, right? So all of those things have to be my concern. And I think municipal judges all over this state, and what I've found now with this national award from Tyler is all over the country, are worrying about not just the folks that can easily take care of their ticket or contest their ticket and have no issues there, but the folks who have a little bit more difficult time, the people who deal with some of the issues we talked about before, transportation, not being able to be paid to take time off to attend court, people who are intimidated or scared, right? Who have had, instances where they've gone to court before and they end up in jail, right?
Yeah, or maybe they had somebody
Right.
who was like Judge Judy, who was really mean and not understanding. I mean,
Or yeah, that yells at them like right and like doesn't treat them with not and Judge Judy does her thing and I
that's
love
fair.
it.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
She
Yeah.
does her thing, but that's fine. That's just not my thing. I got to be authentic to me, and that is just not what's authentic to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about some of these, I think the way y'all phrased it when it comes to Tyler Technologies, creative docket solutions. And y'all, there's a few different ones that y'all have. And big thing for you guys, meeting people where they're at. And that's kind of the mission behind these, what we'll call creative docket solutions. And I'll tee you up with the outreach docket because that's probably one of the most popular ones.
Yeah. So we have what we call outreach dockets, and that is where we actually go out into the community and meet people where they are, right? So we may go to Victoria Christian Assistance Ministries. We may go to Christ Kitchen. We may go to various housing authorities or the library, or, we've gone all over. And we hold court. We have a prosecutor there. I'm there. We have a bailiff there. We have court staff there. And occasionally we have attorneys that work on pro bono basis, defense attorneys that will come and help people with paperwork and filling things out. And yeah, we don't know who's going to show up. But people show up and, it's a place that maybe they've already been, so they're familiar, place they live nearby so they can walk if they have transportation issues. Or maybe it's a place they're not familiar with, but they need to get familiar with, right? So sometimes, like I remember a couple of weeks ago, we were at VCAM and we held a docket, and the guy looked around and he's like, Judge, what's all this food here for? And I was like, I'm glad you asked. I was like, this is for if someone needs assistance, nutrition is available for you, and you can come and get services here at VCAM. We talked a long time about it, but he said, well, what else do they have? And I was like, well, they have clothing, they have, all these things. I was like, he said, well, how do you sign up for this? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, when you and I are done, I want you to walk through this hallway, go to the front door, and talk to my friend at the front desk, and she's going to help you there. So, not only did we get warrants recalled, right, and a plan for something other than payment on the fine, so community service, which, by the way, VCAM, great place to do community service. But we also got him more information about what the services they provide is, right? That was really, really cool to kind of see that. And it happens everywhere we go, really. People are kind of always considering kind of what's around them. So, it really does work in this community is a great partnership for the nonprofits that we work with, but then also the people that need to come in to a safe place and to a place where they can be heard and seen, and their individualized needs are considered, right?
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about what it means to these people to be able to have access to this service? Because I know you've dealt with folks who maybe have had this weighing on them, or just this thing that they weren't able to take care of. So what is it like when having
Well,
all that?
yeah, like
Yeah.
when you owe money, like when you have that burden, right? Like when because right? You owe the money, right? It weighs on you, right? It weighs. There's this frustration, I think, a lot of times, like there's no way out. There's a fear, right? Because they're like, oh, has this, they don't even know if it's turned into a warrant, if it's not, like, so it's like always looking over your shoulder. It's a lot. It can weigh a lot, right? And so my feeling is like when people come in and they're always a little nervous. I'll be honest. They are, but they quickly, hopefully, realize that I'm going to be listening to them and talk to them. And I'm not taking anybody to jail. My bailiff is not taking anybody to jail. We just want to let's figure out a situation. Let's figure out a solution, right? And so that's what we do. We figure out solutions to try to get rid of those warrants, so we can get that kind of relief. But then when we can come up with a solution that's doable for them, whether it's community service or whether it's maybe they're already in school or maybe they need to get school or maybe they need to get their GED or I can give them resources to get all those things done. I have some great folks that I work with at Victoria College to help with, education. Great folks we work with at Texas Workforce Commission that help with job training and job placement. And I can use those types of things to incentivize them. I can use that as to take off money that is owed on any fines and court costs, but and ultimately it incentivizes everybody to, hey, let's take some steps forward. Let's try to get some of these resources that are available to us and put them to work for the individual that's in front of me, right? So what I see, I was asked this actually. I was interviewed at the conference for Tyler Technologies, and I was asked this, and I was like, what I see a lot of times is relief. Like you can just physically see someone's shoulder, like, and sometimes that relates into tears. Like there's a lot of tears that are shed because it's a really powerful thing to feel listened to and to sit across the table and make eye contact with somebody who's willing to listen and then take their situation into consideration and figure out a solution. Maybe I'm naive, but it is a powerful thing. It is a powerful thing for folks.
When did this start to kind of form in your head of, okay, this is something I want to do because I see this problem. I know it can be solved, but we need to go perhaps non-traditional methods here. When did these ideas start to form in your mind of, okay, here's something we can do to make people not afraid of the court and solve these problems so this burden can be lifted up off their shoulders?
Yeah, I mean, I just would take a look. I'm always kind of looking at like what our cases are, and what the backlog looks
Mhm.
like, and especially certain cases I can see like who's scheduled for court, and then I can see who comes and who doesn't.
Mhm.
What those numbers are, and when those numbers were, they started kind of getting out of whack was when I was like, why are more people not coming than coming? Like, what's going on here? Are these people still in jail? Are these people like, do they have warrants? Do they have, what's happening? And so that, early on, we started like kind of working on that and looking at that and trying to like creatively solve that. And so it took a while for what the current form of what you're seeing um, um, kind of started, but again, I take my job very seriously in that I am here to serve all people. And so it was a concern of mine. I wanted to make sure, like, are we doing the best we can by everyone? Are we really accessible? And this really started coming. I don't wanna see eyes rolling back in your head when I start saying this, but this it's a little bit of a history lesson, but this really started kind of being very relevant around 2016 when there was a situation that happened in Ferguson, Missouri. And anyone who's involved in municipal courts is familiar with what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. So, what they found, I mean, it's a long story, but what they found after an investigation was that when people can't afford their tickets, when people get warrants, there wasn't easy solutions for them to get back in front of a judge to get consideration of what was going on. There wasn't it was almost in these other jurisdictions and some in Texas as well, almost a pay to play mentality. And we in Texas are very fortunate. Texas legislature moved very quickly on changing legislation so that we could have some flexibility in how we deal with that. And it's like, no, we don't want people to have to pay a large sum of money in order for them to just get back in front of the judge to explain to the judge that they can't afford the tickets that are pending, right? that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so anyway, I would say that the beginnings of what we are doing started with this idea of like, yeah, I agree. We've got to address this. And luckily, Texas legislature gave us some flexibility to address these things.
Yeah, and then it hasn't just been the outreach dockets for you guys. I know y'all have done evening dockets as well, and especially during, I remember municipal court week, y'all had, 7 p.m. dockets and dockets all over the place. And then also the virtual dockets as well, which I think is something over the last 5 or 6 years has become more and more popular, and that's another thing y'all have leaned into.
Yeah, yeah. So what we find, again, remember one of those constituents that we were talking about are folks that, it's difficult to take off of work, or they
Mhm.
maybe don't get paid when they take off work, or there just may be extra obstacles or barriers for them
Mm.
to take off work. Um, I suspect we can all think of somebody that might apply to, because my evening dockets usually, that's after work hour, traditional work hours, 8 to 5, right? So in the evening we'll hold court. You know who I get? Lots of professionals, right? So teachers, and I'll be honest with you, I want teachers in their classroom teaching our children, right? I don't want
Yeah.
them coming to court with me. Like they're not. That's no. They are talented teachers who need to engage with our students and make them great citizens and all the things that we want them to be. So I am more than happy to have an evening docket if I could accommodate, teachers, and it's not just teachers. Let's be, it's professionals that work those traditional 8 to 5 jobs, right? So medical assistants or people that work in different offices, CPA, all those folks are. Need some flexibility with the hours that we have. So yes, evening dockets have been successful. We also have Saturday dockets, right? Saturdays are also, sometimes you have, in the morning, you maybe have more time to be able to come in. Maybe you've got childcare covered at that point, or maybe you've got, just again, that flexibility is super important. And then you mentioned the virtual dockets. Virtual dockets for us went online. I guess I said the word online, pun intended. Online for us really quickly during COVID. In fact, I think we were one of the first courts to like hit that switch to be virtual. And we have continued those virtual dockets. We have them at least once a month. We find that, that helps folks, again, folks that are working, folks that work out of town. It just provides a bit of flexibility. And maybe that's the key in all of these things, is that looking at implementing flexibility into the system has really improved the efficiency for so many of the folks that we work with.
Yeah, you mentioned COVID, and I wanted to point out that the reason that y'all were able to adopt those virtual courts so fast was because it was something that you were already looking at, like in 2019.
Yep.
Because you already recognized that this was a need and that it would, continue to be a need, obviously, afterward, and it's still been very popular.
It has, yeah, and there's been some controversy over it. I know, some courts have done away with their virtual dockets, and I certainly understand that. Some of us have kept them. I don't want to have any contested hearings. Those are I don't want to have anything contested over Zoom again. Back during those that year that shall remain unnamed, 2020. Anyway, that being said, uncontested matters, and people just checking in, it's been really great. It also allows people so for example, maybe they've already made an agreement with me to turn in some community service, or to make a payment, or to turn in their transcript or something, and maybe they missed that deadline. They can log into that virtual docket, and we visit one on one, and I can get them a new deadline, right? I always tell people, like, hey, if you miss the deadline, I really want you to make the deadline, but if you miss it for one reason or another, don't panic. Give us a call. Let's visit. I can't make any accommodations or changes without visiting with them, because that certainly wouldn't be very fair. But if they come in, or they come and attend my virtual docket, I can make those changes, and we can move on down the road, and avoid any negative consequences. So.
We've talked a lot about the means. I want to talk about the impact now. Over 2,000 people helped, over 8,000 cases resolved, and numbers that seem to keep climbing. And I think those are important to know, because it's a sign that the efforts you guys are making are working. It's not just efforts for effort's sake. It's not just, hey, look, this is what we're doing. It's not just cosmetic. It is real life impact.
Yeah, it is. And we've talked a lot about warrants. Like, I don't want to issue warrants. Warrants are a way to get people's attention, right? Like you got to matter, you got to take care of it. I don't want to issue warrants. I would much rather recall them in this way and say, hey, let's not go to jail, right? Let's not have those big impacts over. And let me emphasize this, right? We're talking about a Class C misdemeanor, a misdemeanor that is defined by fine only, right? It is punishable by fine only. Now, is there a way that you can go to jail in the Class Cs? Absolutely, there is. But I would much rather not do that. Let's keep it a fine only, right? Let's be authentic to what the Code of Criminal Procedure says it is, right? Now, look, other judges have, higher charges, Class A's and Class B's, felonies, state jails. Warrants are utilized all the time by them and need to be, and I certainly understand it. But in my realm, I'm like, let's talk about, do we need to come up with other solutions? And my answer was yes, I do. I want to come up with other solutions so that people aren't getting these large impacts by going to jail over speeding. Speeding is important. Traffic safety is important. Don't get me wrong. But do we need to lose a job, miss picking up our kids from school? Do we need to miss work? Do we need to miss interview? Do we need to have that impact over a speeding case? What do y'all think?
Probably,
I don't think that's
it
in the
probably
best
fe-
interest of anybody.
probably feels a little severe.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's why we've come up with a few solutions. Yeah, I'm gonna start turning the questions around on y'all.
No. But you are a pro here because you mentioned traffic safety right as we want to go over to your MTSI award for the 6th year in a row, which is the Municipal Traffic Safety Initiative Award. And that's something that it's a year-round thing for you guys. You touched on Tiffany, who I work with quite a bit, and it's kind of a baby of hers and a big project that you guys do. And just talk about what the award represents at the state level. What does that mean for you guys?
Yeah, so this is an important award to us because again, so we've been kind of talking about this creative solution to get rid of like warrants and address people that have access issues to the court, right? Well, the other side of that is we also want to educate people about what is important about driving. Why is it important to drive safely, right? Why is traffic safety even an issue? Why do we care? Guys, can you answer that? Anyone? Why do we care
Well,
about traffic
I want
safety?
to get home safe.
Yeah.
That's my
We want everybody, right? We want our students, our young drivers to get to high school safely if they're driving to school. We want to be able to get to work safely. We want to be able to, the lots of traffic safety is important. We want everybody following the same rules so we can make sure that we know what to expect when we get on the road. We don't have to, take any risks. And, we also know that driving is a really dangerous thing. We here in the state of Texas haven't had a day without a traffic fatality in years. I mean, and they keep. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number of years, but I mean they've kept up with this now for quite some time. It's many years. Okay, and it's a goal to get to 0 deaths, traffic safety deaths.
Well, there was a movement a few years ago. It was like Stop the Streak.
Stop
Yeah,
the street.
hashtag in the street. Yeah, text up.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's still going on, y'all. It's still going on. So here's the deal. Traffic safety is important to us. We would like to figure out a way, and so that's why we do the work we do, to go out, educate, because we don't want you getting the tickets in the first place. And then that way you don't have to even worry about my outreach dockets. That way you don't have to come see me on Saturday morning, or you don't have to see me in the evening or anything else. You don't have to worry about any of the warrants. We want safe drivers in the city of Victoria because we want everybody to be able to get to where they're going in a safe manner and not have to worry about that. And so we go out into the public, and you will see us at downtown squares, De Leon Plaza. You will see us at various schools. We do career days. We talk about the safety of car seats. Kids are not a big fan, just so you know, but we try to make it super fun. We talk about seatbelt safety. We talk about driving the speed limit. We talk about not running red lights. That is such an issue sometimes. Not running those stop signs, doing those complete stops. So we do spend a lot of time with kids. I'll tell you why, because a lot of times kids they're in the car with their parents and they're like, look, and I've had 3 children. They still criticize me all the time, but they're like, You should have stopped more carefully at that stop sign, mom and dad, or, you should have used
Yeah.
that blinker. I'm always like, oh, yes, 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 yes. Anyway, um,
Don't worry, the time will come where you can criticize their driving.
oh, let me tell you. Yeah. So anyway, we do a lot of outreach and go out into the community and just try to educate, educate, educate. So we can just, remind people like safe drive. We all practice some of these common things, right? We can get to where we're going safely. We try anyway. We also traditionally have done mock trials, teach students about, courtroom and what goes on in a courtroom, which I love. But then we also try to, usually those mock trials involve alcohol related cases like MIPs or something like that. So we also get a lesson in there about the dangers of that. Anyway, and we love it. We love engaging with the community, and we work really hard to continue to do that. And one of the other things I do want to mention is our car seat safety program. It's really important to us. Lots of statistics out there that'll show that majority of car seats for our babies, our infants, are not installed properly. And so we have it's an extensive training to be able to install those car seats properly and inspect car seats. And so a lot of times we have different events that we'll hold at Target or various places around the city to inspect people drive in, let us inspect their car seat, make sure it's installed properly. If it's not, we make those adjustments for them so that it is installed properly. And we educate everyone on those car seats. That's a super important deal to us. So.
Yeah, I remember once, it might have been back when you just had recently started that initiative,
Mhm.
that Tiffany actually was giving a presentation about it and said that out of the dozens of people that she saw that day, there was only, I think, one car seat that was installed. That's shocking.
It is shocking, and it's a problem, and it's something that can be fixed, right? And it's not, like I said, I think sometimes people are like, I don't know, what are they doing? And I promise, we're trying to do is make sure that car seat is safe and installed properly, because we definitely want our youngest members of the city of Victoria safe. Anyway, we try to hold those things, those inspections as often as we can so that we can help as many people as we can.
Could start like a service with the car seat inspection right there, because that's. I mean, think about how there's so many jokes about like putting the crib or the car seats like the most difficult thing for an expecting parent, and but that is like
Mhm.
you. That is shocking. What you had said that Tiffany, of the dozens, whatever the number was that day,
Mhm.
one was installed correctly, and that's like you think about all the hoops parents jump through for safety for their kids, and it's like this thing that should seemingly be so simple, but we're finding out is not, is like that is mind-boggling, and it showcases a need for what you guys are doing here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we want to do things that benefit this community, right?
Mhm.
With our education outreach. And so I mean, what better benefit than making sure our babies are safe, right?
Yeah,
And
first
that
is gotta
mom
go.
and dads are educated on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then some of the other partnerships that have come up in the past few years that are really innovative is the stuff that you've done with the juvenile case management programs, your partnership with Midcoast. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So, that's also an interesting thing. So what they found, they've kind of been looking at juveniles and how we handle those juveniles. And what they found is sometimes the penalty for a juvenile who steals a car, like their parents' car,
Mm.
grandparents' car, or whatever, goes for a joyride, whatever, that so a penalty for that was actually less severe than a penalty for someone who steals a toy car from a convenience store, because that is a Class C misdemeanor. And those Class C misdemeanors, the way they were handled is they would come to court and there was an entry on someone's record that they were apprehended or charged with that theft. And there was no way to keep that off of their record. Even if you were able to do a deferral, it would show no conviction, but there was still this entry, right? Point. And the what we call kind of the juvenile probation for more serious felonies, that would be a felony, right? They had tools to be able to keep those things off of their record after they were rehabilitated, right? And so a lot of work went into kind of changing the system. And so we came up with this program that the state encouraged, obviously, but a youth diversion program where when someone is charged with a Class C, non-traffic, by the way, but a Class C misdemeanor. So there's various misdemeanors this applies to.
Like petty theft, like you talked about, for
Yeah, yeah,
instance.
like small theft, less than $50, for example. Um, they can come to my court, but what happens is if they qualify, the prosecutor will make a recommendation to dismiss the case. The case gets dismissed. And then we put them in a program with our partners, kind of reach another cold call. I love my partners at Minco's Family Service. Thank you for taking my calls. That's what I want to say. Now I'm worried that when people get my phone call, they're like, "Uh-oh." But no, they take my calls, and they're like, "Absolutely, we can do this." And so they go and they work with these kids, right? And it's just talking about like decision making and like what this family dynamic is, other resources, what other tools do we have in the community that might need to be involved, or what reminders do we have? And so they go and work with them for usually we do about 90 days, and then that's it. The case is dismissed and it's automatically expunged from their record, right? And so again, I give a lot of credit to the Texas legislature for laying out this framework and working hard on this framework and allowing courts like mine to implement these policies that really do benefit these juveniles that appear in my court. So our youth diversion has been very successful, and I love my partnership. I'm very thankful for partnership with Midcoast Family Services.
Well, I want
If you
to,
can't tell.
yeah,
Yeah, they're great.
Judge. Well, I want to hear more about these community partnerships and how they help the municipal court. Before we do that, though, we're going to throw it to a quick commercial break. Hear a couple of words. Then we're going to be right back with Judge Vanessa Heinold. Stay tuned.
Tejas Fest will return to downtown Victoria October 2nd and 3rd with a star-studded lineup. This year's festival headliner is Dos Borrachos, featuring country greats like Kevin Fowler and Roger Krager. Plus, we've got the internet-famous Easy Band, an Edna native, Addison Mollick, and so much more. You can check out the full lineup and learn more about the festival at tejasfestbtx.com. Want to be part of our municipal court's outreach efforts? The court can provide a guest speaker for your event to talk about traffic safety, career opportunities, and much more. Plus, the court is always looking for local partners to host outreach dockets, meet and greets, and similar events. Visit victoriatx.gov/court outreach to get started. And now, back to the conversation.
Welcome back into this week's episode of Town Talk with the Honorable Judge Vanessa Heinold presiding. I'm just kidding. We're not actually in court, Sam.
Oh, thank goodness.
But I do want to touch more on the community partners that we started to talk about just before we went to commercial, Judge Heinold. And I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Billy T. Catan.
Oh yeah, that is a great partner that we have. That was another cold call that I made to my friends at Billy T. Catan. So that's interesting the way that kind of came about. In my court, what I deal with is a lot of public intoxications. We call them PIs, right? We also have MIPs, minor in possessions, or minor in, and driving under the influence cases. So there's some alcohol involved cases in my court, and for a while in my court, when those folks would come in with PIs, it was just like, all right, how do you plead? All right, you've got a little jail time credit, but there's still outstanding balance. You'll need to, address that balance, and we would address it however we needed to. Not a lot of lessons learned, I felt like there. It's just come to court, you got to pay something. I mean, it's a pain because you were arrested, right? But I don't know. I just kind of kept thinking there was a different way to handle this. The other thing I thought about was when I was a prosecutor in my prior life. I was a prosecutor in Houston and Harris County, and then here in Victoria. I remember when I would get ready for trials, right? You always, as a prosecutor, kind of look at the criminal history of someone, right? Where are they in the process? Anyway, typically on that criminal history, what I would find, especially with those alcohol offenses, is it would start with, we would see some kind of indication of a public intoxication. And so here's my thought. This is what I kept thinking. Like, is there a way to intervene at my level, right? Class C, fine only offense. Is there a way to intervene at my level that could affect something later on down the road where we don't have to worry about them later on down the road, right? And so that's why I picked up that phone and cold called my friends at Billy T. Catan Recovery Outreach. And I said, hey, is there something we could do? Is there something we could kind of work on here? And to my delight, actually, they were like, absolutely. Yeah, let's do this. We could do this. And so we started meeting and we created this program and we call it our Court to Recovery program. And so what we find is it's about 4 hours of someone's time. So they will attend a class on Wednesdays from 4 to 6. So they attend 2 classes and they meet with my friends at Billy T. Catan. And during that class, they talk about decision making. They talk about the ways like alcohol and substance abuse are affecting them in different ways, whether it's their family, whether it's their jobs, whether it's, whatever it is, right? We talk about all of those things. And then actually at the second meeting I attend, I go to every second meeting and I talk to these folks about why I created the program and what the options are, what it is we can learn from this. And because the deal is, I don't want them in my court on a public intoxication again. Because I can tell you, everyone I took, nobody planned that evening to get charged with public intoxication and go to jail. There was something that happened there, right? And so it's about kind of discussing that, talking about how do we make a difference, right? And so anyway, we work really hard. It's some of my favorite time that I spend on court business is going to those court to recovery meetings. It's a smaller setting, obviously, folks from my court, but we get to talk. Again, we sit at a table. We just visit about real issues. Things like what trigger the use of alcohol or misuse of alcohol and substance abuse. What are those triggers? What do they look like? What are solutions to those triggers? What can we do to avoid coming back to my court for a public intoxication? But also, what can we do to avoid having this escalate into something more serious? And here's the deal. Like, does it mean that they leave the court to recovery and they never have another drink again or never use whatever they're using again? Probably not, right? But what it does do is it plants a seed, right? It plants a seed about, should there be a problem or should a problem come about at some later point, right? They now have my friends at Billy T that they know. They've already been introduced to. They know where Billy T. Catan is. They know what services they provide. And they also know that they can call the municipal court too. And we are more than happy to relay that information to them and talk to them about, whatever resources we can get them in touch with. It's a cool program. Sometimes when I explain it, maybe it doesn't sound cool, but I'm telling you, when we go into those meetings, we have the greatest conversations and connection, right? Connection with folks. It's powerful too.
Well, I think it goes back to what we had talked about earlier, meeting people where they're at, because it's not, you don't want it to be in a courtroom. And just meeting people where they are, and that's going to be typically more powerful. Talk about why these community partnerships, Midcoast, Billy T. Catan, I know there's more, why they're so important to the mission and what you guys do.
Well, because they have relationships with the people we're trying to reach. And if they don't have those relationships, then we can introduce them to these folks and the resources they have. Some of the kindest people live here in Victoria and work at some of these partnerships that we've talked about. And there are more, I can tell you, there are lots more in this community. Some of the most amazing people that are non-judgmental, that are willing and able to do anything they can to help the folks that need the help and to give them the resources they need. And so I am so grateful to all the folks that let us come in and utilize their place of business, to hold court. But I'm also so grateful that they picked up the phone when I called, I mean, really. And that they let us kind of build off of the relationships they already have, and they see the mission of us trying to meet people where they are, but also trying to work with people. We are not here just to collect fines and court costs, right? But there are, as I always say, different people can pay in different ways, right? And paying doesn't always look like dollars and cents that are out of your pocket, right? It can be, we can look at it in flexible ways, and that's what we try to do. We really try to figure out how best to reach people,
Yeah, and talking about these, these groups that work in the community to help people to better themselves, to move on from, whatever it is that's happening in their life. I was fortunate enough to attend a graduation ceremony for one of your cohorts for the Billy T. Catan program, and there was this woman there who talked about how motivated she was to do better, for her daughter and for her family. And so it's got to be so powerful for them to have someone telling you, like, actually, like, you made this mistake, but it doesn't have to be your whole story. Like, there's resources out there to help you to overcome it.
That's right. It doesn't end, with this one indiscretion, this one issue, right? And I know I always tell people, like, I tell my children all the time, I'm the only one who gets paid to judge around here, right? And granted, I
And
am paid to be a judge,
I'm
right?
sure they love
Yeah,
that.
they do. Yeah. But truthfully, sometimes we need to take a step back. Am I the judge of the court? Absolutely. But truthfully, we need to take a step back and start talking about ways to, um, not to be so judgy, but to just get them the resources that they need so they can start making these better choices, right? So they can realize that, like, hey, one mistake doesn't need to define their life, that we actually can move on from it. You are valuable part of our society. You are worthwhile. You are worthy, right? You are worthy. And so let's get you what you need to
Yeah,
make sure that
absolutely.
you can live to that full potential.
Yeah.
Have you seen in Victoria this approach that you've developed for the municipal court? Have you seen that raise some of the trust and the willingness from the public to access the municipal court?
Yeah, I mean, all of these efforts are a part of trying to build that trust, right? And trying all of these efforts, whether it's, going out to schools, or going to the local night out programs to give out brochures and pamphlets about safe driving, to teaching mock trials, to having programs like Court to Recovery, youth diversion, car seat inspections, like all of these things, right, are part of this greater mission of, like, showing people that, we are trying to work with folks. We are trying to elevate um, them in a way that makes them successful long term, right? So it's not just a fine. It really isn't. I mean, that fine is there, right? But it can turn into so much more, right? It can turn into, making connections that you've maybe needed to for a long time with our friends, to talk about recovery issues, or it can turn into getting, just recently, I had a young man in my court actually yesterday, and we were kinda going back and forth. He didn't wanna go to school. He really didn't. He was really tired of it. And
So when you
so
say young man, sorry, this was a minor, or
so he was 17,
okay.
so not a juvenile, but he didn't really want to go to court. And so he and I had to come to an agreement. We had to come to we had to see eye to eye about something, because the thing is, I wanted him to get that GED, or to get into a program to do some credit recovery with the local school district, right? And anyway, we figured out a way to provide that incentive, right? So I've met with him a few times. He came to court yesterday and he said, "Judge, I got into that credit recovery program. I've been working hard. He brought me his thing, showed it to me. He brought me his attendance too. He's been attending, and he got his credit recovery. He is going to graduate in May.
Mm.
And to me, like, that is just, it made me feel like the belle of the ball, right? Like, really, I was just like, I'm so proud of you. And he was proud. You could see it in his face. Like, he was proud. He's like, I did it, Judge. You thought I couldn't. I was like, I did. I thought you could. That's the whole point. That was just really, really cool. And I get things like that a lot, and I guess maybe it's selfish, but I love that part of it. I do. I love it. Yeah. When people are like trying to get their driver's licenses and we come up with ways for them to work on, any fines or court costs that they have in ways that are doable for them. And then they go, I always tell them, like, look, when you go get that driver's license, which thank you, DPS, for reopening our office here in
Not,
town.
not the public safety headquarters,
Not the public safety
but we'll talk
headquarters.
about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and they go and they get their driver's license, they will come back to court and they're like, show that judge, I got this driver's license, because they know how excited I am when I see it. And my court staff will tell me, so-and-so came in, they showed us the driver's license. Getting a driver's license is it's a big step forward. And we need those driver's licenses. It's, hard to get around town without it. And, for jobs and all sorts of things, it's important. So it makes me really happy when I see some of those outcomes, and we get to see a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, now let's touch on PSHQ since we brought it up over here, and I'm not sure everyone got a massive upgrade moving into that. Everyone who moved in there got a massive upgrade moving into that building. I'm not sure anyone got a bigger upgrade than you over at the municipal court and your staff.
So I'm going to tell you, I have, I know folks at the police department. I know folks with fire. I've heard them tell people as they're talking about our public safety headquarters, we've got some cool stuff. We've got, this is amazing what we have, and we can so much better address the job that we have in front of us with some of the resources we have here at this building. But if you haven't seen the court, you're missing out. Everybody agrees. It's true. And I was so thrilled to be able to give people tours, especially during the grand opening, and a few stragglers that came after the grand opening. I'm happy to show anyone. But it is a beautiful courtroom. I've kind of looked at it as a nice culmination of a long career that I've had being in various courtrooms and being able to give some input here and there on that courtroom. It's been really awesome. We've obviously hold court there now. It is nice. We have space. We have these beautiful windows that let natural light in. And so, yeah, it's really great. I invite everyone. By the way, you do not have to get a ticket to come see me.
Yeah, when you said invite everyone, I didn't know where you were going.
Yeah. Please do not get a ticket to come see me. You can actually just walk in the doors, and I will be more than
And
happy
I
to
was
give
just
you a
going to
tour.
speed right on out of here in order to go and do that. Not like I work in the building or anything. I also want to talk about another big addition for the court as well in Judge Easley, and that was a big deal as well. We have to I feel like we have to touch on that. We have to touch on her while we're in here.
Absolutely, yes. We are lucky enough to we got to hire Judge Teresa Easley as our associate judge. She is a great addition to our court and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience from both her experience as being a prosecutor as well as a defense attorney. And she looks really great in a robe. I am so happy to have her. She's handled court. Actually, last week she handled court. And so we've been training and working, and she has a very similar philosophy as I do on how we handle these types of cases that are in our court. And she's smart. I could sing her praises all day if we need to.
Yeah, no, I got the chance to meet her, talk to her, actually interview her, and she seems great. Seems like a lot of fun. I know everyone's excited. Seems like a huge addition to what you guys do. Before we get out of here, I just want to talk about what's next for you guys. What are some of the long-term goals for the municipal court as we head into the rest of 2026 and beyond?
Wow. Long-term goals. We got, I always have something going on. Tiffany gets real nervous when I start talking about long-term goals. I'll be honest. No,
Tiffany, cover your ears for
I
this next
know,
part.
I'm always kind of looking at ways to make things more efficient and easier to access, right? Like that's just kind of my thing. And one of the things with the public safety headquarters, it has been able to, we've been able to make court when you do come into our physical courtroom more efficient. So we'll continue to evaluate those things. We also, this may not be super exciting, but we're also going to transition to new software that's going to help us tremendously, kind of transitioning to the cloud and doing some things like that. That's going to help our ability to handle cases and organize things in a way that is efficient as well. So we've got a few of those things lined up. I expect we're going to be doing lots more out in the community, continue our effort to educate on driving safely so we can all get to work safely, and all of the various things we have to do. And then we are going to continue to innovate. And I hope continue to be a leader in this in the state of Texas, right? I'm not sure there are other courts that are doing outreach dockets, but they interviewed me a little bit when we were receiving the award. I'm like, please call me, reach out. And we've had judges and courts from all over the U.S. call us and talk to us about what are small steps they could do to kind of implement these outreach dockets, and so that's been exciting. I hope to continue to kind of help this expand,
Well, Judge Heinold, we can't wait to see what you guys continue to do with those outreach dockets and reaching people where they're at. You've already done so much, and it sounds like there's only more coming, so we're excited to see that. But that's where we're going to end it for this week's episode of Town Talk. Judge, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really enjoyed having you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we can't wait to see you guys next time.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Town Talk. Check out future episodes at victoriatx.gov/Town Talk, or of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Spotify account. Make sure you hit that notification button to be sure that you get alerted instantly when our new episodes debut. You don't want to get behind, you want to stay informed, so make sure you do that. We appreciate your support, couldn't do it without you. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.